I've drawn my elk tag. What now? Except for Idaho, all the western draws are complete. And there are a lot of hunters out there dancing the happy tag jig. Well, here at ElkBros, we're already getting emails from hunters with questions covering all sorts of topics to get ready for the 2019 elk season. Well, first of all, congratulations, guys and gals. You've drawn your elk tag. And all of our inspiration for today's topics are from your questions. But what now? In this week's episode, we hope to help you out with some of that list and hopefully inspire some more questions for next week. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volume just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillian. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello again, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue collar hunters out there following our show, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, coming to you live from Dallas, Texas tonight. And joining me, your elk hunting coach, Joe Gillian, minus Chav Chavez.
Yeah, dadgummit, man. Chav, get healthy, bud. He's yeah. I don't think it's a wall. It's like AWII, absent with illness. So
it is what it is. We wish him all the best and hope he gets well soon. Got to have him back. Love Chav and his input.
Right.
Joe, before we get to the shout outs, you had a couple of things you wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah. So this is pretty cool, guys. Listen up. So with a bunch of grinders out there getting ready for 2019, and that's basically what this whole show is about this evening. I mean, we've been getting all kinds of questions coming in because guys now have got their tags, and that's what we said. What now? There's a lot of nervousness, a lot of uneasiness, a lot of questions about gear, what to have, where to go, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit. But one of the big concern is always about knowledge of their hunt area. And Gilbert, like we have done on a lot of our things, we've talked about some of the stuff that has helped us out. And one of the big tools that we use is onX. And I've said that all along because when it comes to having a GPS or paying a $30 subscription for onX for the state that you're going to hunt, you know, like we said, that money you're saving using that onX subscription, you can buy a whole lot of baloney. So,
oh yeah, no doubt.
So in doing that, it's really cool because I made contact with onX and they want to help us help others because that's what we've talked about. And they're going to supply us with some gear and some gift cards to pass on to some of our listeners. So guys, here we go. It's giveaway time.
Man, that's awesome, Joe.
Yeah, it's way cool, man. If you want a chance at an onX app gift card or some gear, here's what you got to do. So the contest is going to run from today. It's Tuesday, June 25th until Friday, June 28th. What we're going to do is we're going to select the lucky winners from our ElkBros camp members that are also following us on Instagram. So here's what you got to do. If you are not currently a camp member, you need to go to ElkBros.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom and join our elk camp, join our camp. And what that does, it puts you on a mailing list so that we can always send, when we send information out weekly, if we have a new podcast, if we have a couple coming out, if we have any new videos, or if we have any promotions or giveaways like this, you're in the know. So you need to go there and join our camp. But do me a favor, make sure you check your spam because after you join it, it does send you an email so you can authenticate and make sure that it's you. Secondly, all you got to do, we didn't make this real difficult. just follow us on Instagram, because when we go and draw those people from the pool of our campers, we're going to go check and see if they follow us on Instagram, and that's how we're going to select our winners. So first of all, thanks to Onyx. I think it's so cool that they're helping us to help you guys. I think that's pretty special, and it really gives you guys an opportunity to make sure you have one of your areas covered, because, man, I tell you, the things that you can do, the value of that tool is incredible. So go ahead, join our camp, follow us on Instagram, and we'll announce the winners at our next one on the following Tuesday. Okay?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow, we're so lucky that we got Onyx participating. I mean, you and I have used this app for a few years now, and it's been so awesome. We use it down here in Texas on our whitetail, mule deer, exotic country too. I mean, it's a fantastic app.
Well, so our grinders know out there too, we are not paid ambassadors of any kind for Onyx, but right. We are people that believe, and the only things you're ever going to hear out of us is things that we believe in. And I think it's a great help to you. I think it's going to help you in your hunt. I think it makes you fearless out in the woods. We've already talked about things you need to make sure you have besides that, but it's a big win-win for you guys. Okay. Next, I want to thank a friend of mine. It's kind of funny. I've got a buddy, and you guys, if you watched or listened to our first Insights edition, it was done with Lance Bernal. He's a game biologist from Vermejo Park. And if you've never checked out Vermejo Park is almost northern New Mexico in a section, buddy. I mean, it's what, 92 square miles, 600,000 acres. And yeah, it's unbelievable, beautiful, has all the different zones. And Lance is a game biologist for there. And Lance is trying to educate this boy right here. Every time I post something, I've always used the term horns, and it drives him. Do not say horns in front of a game biologist.
Especially when they can reproduce antlers. Yeah. Let's say straight real quick, Joe.
Yeah, so he's been dogging me on any of the posts. Whenever I say horns, he's like, antlers.
It ain't a cow.
So I he's a good friend of mine, and I tell you, he's just a great person. He's somebody that does everything the right way, really honors the animals. And I tell you, if you have not listened to that first Insights edition, go back and listen to that, because he gives some incredible insights on elk behavior, because this guy is a pro at what he does. And so lastly, all of tonight's topics, everything that we're talking about is listener influence. We listen to the questions, we look and all of them basically, even though they're kind of different in some ways, it was basically on the same thing. It was people wanting to get prepared, people that were uneasy about some things happening in 2019, and really influence that. So I want to give some shout outs to those guys. Matt Deal from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know, we just talked about Pennsylvania the other day.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yeah. So, Matt, thank you for your stuff that came out. We also had questions both from Kyle from Windsor, Colorado, and Keenan Gibson from Kansas. And I want to double thank those guys, because, you know, we've asked a lot of our listeners if you would just do us a favor, you know, subscribe to us on our ElkBros channel on YouTube. Please go to iTunes, go to Apple Podcasts, and please rate and review us there. Those reviews really help us out a lot. And these guys went on there and gave us some great reviews. Also, other questions came from Kendrick Logan of Missouri, and Chad. Yeah, a Missouri boy. And yes. We've had a few of those in elk camp before, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The infamous Shane Peters and Ron Peters.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
those boys know how to liven up an elk camp, don't they? I tell you what,
Every day.
if you want to liven up an elk camp, bring in some boys from Missouri, boy, and they're a father-son team, and they're just
unbelievable, Joe. We had them down pig hunting with us in South Texas,
Uh-huh.
and they had a blast. They brought a freezer with them, Joe. They took back like 11 hogs, right? And we were like, they had them stacking them. They were killing them so fast. They were stacking them. They're like, man, this is a lot of work butchering all these hogs. I'm like, boys, I tried to tell you, you know.
Well, if you haven't been to a Missouri pig picking, buddy, you haven't had something, you know. And then last on that list was Chad Hashin. And Chad, I hope I'm saying that right. Forgive me if I'm not. You can send me an email and correct me. And Chad is from Bismarck, North Dakota. Really cool representation there. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys that sent in a bulk of our questions and got our theme going tonight.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to remind all of our listeners out there and our grinders, if you're a listener and you'd like your questions answered, just send your question to info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com.
Yeah, you bet. And, you know, it was funny because you remember when Chav said, Chav goes, and no dumb questions.
Yeah.
And he corrected himself. I mean, there are no dumb questions.
Right.
I think he was looking at me when he said that first time, and then he made everybody else feel better, right?
He probably is. He probably is, no doubt. Well, Joe, you know what's next?
Yep.
It's our ElkBros shout-out time.
Yep. So if you're new to the show, these are the shout-outs to just a few cities. And the most listeners topping out our show, our charts this week. Gilbert, our last show just blew up, man. It was awesome to see those numbers going up. We're already, we're getting close to 2,000 listeners a week. It is just so cool. I mean, I can remember when we got 30 listeners. I was like, Gilbert, we got 30 listeners, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's really taken off, and we can't thank the guys out there enough for supporting us and rating and reviewing us. This is been a dream come true for us, something we're real passionate about, and I think there's a whole bunch of grinders out there that are pretty passionate about it with us. You know,
gotten nothing but great feedback, and thank you guys for allowing us to continue to coach. So topping the charts this week, don't miss the culture of French Basque dining and the staple cocktail of choice, which is a pecan punch. And pecan punch, man. I had to look this up, Picon, and yeah, I was like, is it pecan?
Right.
But pecan punch in Gardnerville, Nevada.
I'll be dang. Gardnerville, Nevada in the house with their punch.
That comes from that. It's that Basque is that French influence, French immigrant influence that was really big and strong up there in Nevada.
Yeah, you know, the Kunas boys I hang out with, they make a sauce pecan, and it's a little bit different where they cook some coubillon, sauce pecan, stuff like that. It's definitely a French cuisine.
Oh yeah,
correct?
Awesome, man.
Bet. Well, coming back to the largest city in Oregon represented with more breweries per capita than any other city. A big ElkBros shout out goes to Portland, Oregon.
Portland. So more breweries than any other city. You know that's why that's a happy place, man.
No doubt. No doubt. You can't be happy with plenty of beer.
Well, two things, man. You got, because they're known for their beer and they're known for their coffee, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Do the beer at night, wake up in the morning.
Plenty good elk hunting in Oregon as well.
Next up, originally named South Arkansas, it is known as the heart of the Rockies, and mountain bike trails are just so good, and the mountains are so gorgeous here, you won't want to travel anywhere else anymore. Salida, Colorado.
Man, that's awesome. Salida, Colorado.
You know, and I had some boys up there that was saying, man, we got to get some of our northern guys on there so we can get a shout out. So there's that Colorado.
There it is. Well, next up, the city synonymous with the Wild West. Their frontier days and rodeos or known as the daddy of them all, has been thrilling visitors for over 120 years. None other than Cheyenne, Wyoming.
The biggest, I believe that's the biggest city and capital, correct, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
Is it? They're in Wyoming. I mean, that Wild West frontier days is a blast.
The biggest rodeo I've ever been to in the world is the Calgary Stampede, right?
Oh,
So,
really?
I mean,
Yeah.
That's gigantic.
Yeah,
And,
that's crazy, though.
No, it's a week. I mean, it's half a month, So,
right.
I mean, it's really awesome. Those Canadians got it going on up in Calgary.
Well, I guess they're expecting about 400,000 visitors to the Frontier Days. That's it doubles the size of the place and real quick. So,
yes, sir.
Last but not least, you can double your pleasure at Texas Chocolate and Barbecue, take the Mega Challenge at Mel's Country Cafe, or pick your own fruit at the Matt Family Orchard in Tomball, Texas.
Absolutely.
You know a little bit about that place?
I know a little bit about that. If you go 2 streets north of my house, Joe, you're in Tomball, Texas. If you go 3 streets east, you are in the Woodlands, Texas, and 2 streets right behind me, you're in Spring, Texas. So my brother's to the north there in Tomball, the northwest right there. Mel's Country Cafe is one of the coolest cafes in all of the state of Texas. I challenge anybody to go there and try to eat the large Texas fried steak. I mean, it is the deal. And their hamburgers are legendary at Mel's Cafe.
Well, I tell you, if any of you guys ever go over there, let them know that they've been talked about on our blue collar elk hunting show. So
absolutely, I'll let Mr. Mel know that we give him a shout out just the other night.
Oh, you just want a big burger? I know you do.
Without the bun, Joe, I'm still on the keto.
Okay. So, guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review. You have to go to Apple Podcasts. A guy, sent me today and said, I don't have iTunes. Well, you can download it for free. Go to iTunes, and if you want to, and please review for us. You can check out more of our content. Go see some of our stories. I have one now. We have one on there about preparedness on our ElkBros site. So go check it out.
Yeah, and Joe, tonight it's all about questions from our readers, and
right.
How to get them ready for the 2019 season.
Right.
So I'm gonna let you kick us right off, Joe.
Okay, so what I did, I kind of broke these up in different areas, and one of them, a big one, a lot of people was asking about the same thing and combined different stuff. It said, is there anywhere when hunting archery to get away from crowds? And I had guys from Colorado, I had people from Idaho, I had people, for some reason there wasn't a whole lot of people from Wyoming doing this, but a lot of Colorado, and I didn't get any on New Mexico as far as the crowds, but I'm telling you, we got our crowds too here.
Amen.
But they were like, so what do we do? Do we go solo backpack? Do we do wilderness areas? Do we do national forests and avoid those main outfitter trails? Or do we head to those, in Colorado, those alpine meadows above 10,000 feet? Or do we go down lower to the pine oak areas? And, I think we can kind of hit a lot of these things and kind of answer them separately. So the first thing that I want to do is for you guys, because a lot of you talked about Colorado, and I know a couple of you talked about Idaho, but when I'm bow hunting, we generally, where we're in pretty much a high use area, and we're going to bump into people. If you're looking for that experience to get someplace, sometimes I want you to think, and Chab and I made this mistake when we were first hunting, is that we went to an area, and this is how we found our honey hole. We went to an area and we thought, dude, we got to go back 10 miles to get away from everybody. Well, we hadn't gone a mile and a half in and our truck broke down. And so we was like, well, we'll just camp here until somebody pulls us out. And so we started camping just a mile and a half from where everybody else was heading in. And buddy, we had the best elk hunt ever. And everybody was driving by those elk. So a lot of times that, there's a few things I've heard people say different stuff. They're like, usually after the first mile and a half after a trailhead, it thins out. But then there's going to be that magic point that you get up into there where people are wanting to camp, those outfitters and those high wilderness camps. So there's kind of a sweet spot in there. And I would tell a lot of those people is sometimes, check out the areas, do your homework for those areas that aren't all the way back in. Do you have to get up there above 10,000 feet to be able to hunt elk and be by yourself? Well, there's a lot of people have that same thought. And you get up in those high mountains and those deep canyons, those bugles carry a long way. And so, people end up chasing those bugles. So that's just something for you to think about.
Well, Joe, I think there's, if you're doing your pre-planning with onyx and things of that nature and seeing those high meadows and high forests up there in alpine forest, and then the lower brush country that are maybe pinyon oak or whatever, and that lower country's loaded with acorns.
Right.
I know where I'm going to be. I mean, the cows are going to be where the food's at.
So are
right?
the bulls too. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. All those animals are slaves to their bellies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So at the end of the day, water, food, and then the concentration of cows are going to bring those bulls. For me, early season bow hunting is all about finding those groups of cows.
Correct.
That those bulls are going to be after.
Absolutely.
So for me, I like to see both areas. If I got quite a bit of acorn sign down below and I don't have it up above, I'm thinking I'm probably going to hunt with everybody and let them go right on by me. And we've seen that happen, huh, Joe?
Yeah, we have. One of the guys when he sent his question in said that he was kind of worried about the thicker country because it was harder to spot with binos and from high points. And all I want to tell you is, don't worry about that. You don't need those binos because
you don't see them. You just need to hear them.
One of the best places and my favorite places to hunt are in the thick timber in that oak brush. And the reason I like that is because the main two things that are going to give you away to an elk is you can get by their ears because they're used to sounds. You can make all kinds of sounds and sound like an elk walking around. In fact, I've done stomping like that and had animals come in close to me because they thought I was another critter,
Absolutely. I've watched you do it.
Yeah. But the eyes, you might be able to fool them a couple of times, but you're not going to fool that nose. So once you get in that thick country, now they hear those noises and they think it's another elk as long as you're making elk sounds. And you've eliminated the eyes. The only thing they have is the nose. And if you're making those right calls, that thick country, when you spot them, you're not going to be able to spot them far away, but what do you want to do? Do you want to look at them or you want to shoot them? That's kind of where I'm at with that. Because if you want to look at them, find some place where you can see through the pines for 80, 100 yards. And those are the bulls that are going to hang up at 80, 100 yards because they're wanting you to show yourself. Where you get in that thick oak brush, they're going to have to come to you because they can't see you. And now you're going to end up with 12, 15 yard shots. It's going to be up close and personal. And it's just, Chav and I got in the middle of a herd in some thick oak brush last morning, last day, and we got in that herd, ended up getting split apart. And I shot a bull at, I don't know, probably 12 yards. And, I started doing my scream bugle and stuff, my double bugle, ended up calling in more bulls doing that, which is something you guys ought to put a light bulb on and kind of mark that, remember that. But I get Chav to finally come to me. I was like, man, I got one down. He's like, so do I. So 2 bulls went down in that thick oak brush that morning. And that has happened to us more than once. And,
Happened to me that morning. I killed my big bull.
Yeah.
I mean, we called in 7 bulls after I killed that big bull.
Well, and that's
It was crazy how many bulls that were coming through there.
and that's one of the places where you can walk making noise and sounding like a little group of cows moving through there, and you'll have those bulls move in from the sides. You got to really watch your sides because they're going to be coming in to try to scent check, and it's a great opportunity like that. So high mountain meadows above 10,000 feet or lower pine oak, again, has to do with the food source, has to do with where the cows are, like Gilbert said. Don't worry about the binos. And one guy said he thought about the pine and oak lower because he thought it might attract less people. So to that guy's credit, you can think about, and like I said, we hunt in high use areas. There's a lot of people. And I mean, we're going down a trail, an ATV trail, and it's like daggum NASCAR, huh, Gilbert?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's like, wow. And like, what are you? Oh, I can't believe this.
And all those guys were heading up to, those higher areas, figuring they had to get a long way away. We went down to the ugly stuff and killed 2 bulls that morning.
Smashed them.
Should have had 3 down, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last year, we killed 3 bulls up top, and then just kind of ran out, went down below, found the acorns again, and then our 3 other guys had shot opportunities. One guy connected, should have had 3 more bulls down in that lower country too.
Right.
So I mean, we've seen it happen both times. You just got to be willing to make those decisions and have plan A and plan B.
Right. And it was full of acorns at the time. So it was a good place to be.
I learned a valuable lesson there that on day 2 or day 3, we need to be checking to see how many acorns are down there. Because if they're there, the elk are going to be
sure.
I've been there every time we've been there.
Right. And the other thing is when the acorns are down there, have a bear tag with you because you're going to have a lot of encounters with that as well.
I tell you what, those dang bears are like big raccoons, man.
Yes,
they're unbelievable.
Tearing things up. Now, I do want to say, though, I don't want to sound anti-wilderness or anything like that. No, absolutely not.
Especially Colorado, Joe, because, I mean, there are a lot of people that want to stay around the trailheads. And
sure.
I've got a real good friend of mine, Gene, that hunts Colorado a lot. And he hunts where most people don't ever want to go.
Right.
He kills a lot of big bulls.
Sure, most definitely. And
Gene Shockey's his name. Really good guy that's hunted with us.
To add something to that, too, is, we've always talked about low use areas and high use areas where elk are used to human encounters. Well, if there's any state that those elk are going to have encounters with people during the summer months and during that time before the season, it's Colorado, because Colorado is an outdoor mecca. I mean, you drive around Colorado and there's more people biking up and down those highways than you'll see anywhere. And there's more people that are hiking, camping, and going back. So it's actually, to me, it's almost a high use area in some sense where those elk do get used to people. And the experience of backpacking in country and finding a place where you are kind of alone, or you can get into some ridges or do some, and I'm going to talk about another technique here in a minute, but it's incredible. I've done it before, and, I've even done horseback. And horseback, if you've never ridden a horse up into the mountains to hunt with, they add a different element that you have to worry about. But man, I mean, it's just so soul refreshing. It's just so fulfilling. So that's awesome. The only thing is, when you said solo, and I'm not a big solo hunter, even though I've hunted on my own, but I have groups that we come back to camp with, and sometimes, we'll split off a couple of guys. But to be totally by yourself up in the wilderness can be very fulfilling. But like I've said before, that is one of the toughest things a person will ever do, because if you plan on being successful, you got to think about the time of year. You got to think about the weather, which means you got to get that meat off the mountain. And I'm telling you, it will test you. And my hat's off, man. My hat's off to those guys that that do that. It takes a passion, it takes a love, and which I will never say anything against, because anybody that has that kind of passion, that wants to do that and it fulfills their soul, go get after it. Okay. Wilderness areas, a lot of times those wilderness areas attract a lot of those outfitter camps in there. Again, I don't worry about being someplace where other people are camping. I don't worry about being in some place where other people are hunting, because I'm not able to tell you, if I had a nickel for every time I pass somebody in the woods after I've been in elk all morning long and they tell me they hadn't seen or heard a hare or heard a bugle one, buddy, it happens so much. And it's just because their skill set is not allowing them to have success. So
all it takes is just one.
yeah, that's Trent Fisher and Born and Raised. That's their theme. It only takes one, right?
Yeah.
So, one other thing too, if you are hunting in the mountains and you are hunting where there's other people hunting, then what I tell people is you can hunt like you're in wolf country. Treat other hunters like wolves. They're chasing bugles just like the wolves do. So the way to get past that is by hunting in the timber in midday, because the sounds don't carry as far. And you can night bugle, go out and do some work when most people are sleeping. And that's the nice thing about having your camp on your back, is you can walk some of those ridges and you can night bugle and hear some of those calls and back off so your scent's not going down in that canyon, and you're ready, man. You're ready for the next morning. That to me is cool. And I've done that. I mean, I've gone out at night and I've stayed with herds all night long on tough hunts where we had full moon and we had heat. So I wanted to be on them first thing. So, I mean, I stayed with them all night and I was right on them at daytime. And that is so cool. It's so much fun. So you can hunt in timber at midday, do those midday hunts when it's thick. You can get some great opportunities, night bugle. And the other thing is to use those low volume elk sounds, because all the hunters out there, all you guys have been listening to all these different things, and you hear people just going and screaming bugles, and you're listening for that high pitched bugle. And I tell you what, you get in those trees and you start doing things like raking, making those low guttural noises, cow calls, sound like glunking, a bull that's got a cow in heat. You know, you start doing some of that breeding type sounds in there. And now you're not challenging bulls out there. You're acting like a bull that has those cows with you and has a cow that's coming in estrus. And you do not understand how far those sounds, that's what they're listening for.
Yeah.
And those bulls that in those states that do have wolves, when people say they're not hearing them bugle, they're still making elk noises, but they're making those low volume elk noises.
You know, I remember a time, Joe, I was hunting with the famed cowboy R.C. Knox. and I believe you were with us that it was a midday deal. We went out on midday and you could only hunt to midday and then you had to leave us. It was the first evening I ever arrowed a bull 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And R.C. Knox was with me, and we were just, sitting down, having some granola, waiting for things to get right when we hear a little, and that was it, just above us, right? So RC, all he did was break out a little pipe, just a little like copper pipe, and he went with that pipe. Right. I looked at him like, what in the world? And then he took out that hyper call and went like that. Man, the woods erupted with bulls, man. I'm like, oh my God. I'm talking, I bet if we didn't have 10 bulls around us, Joe, and it happened in seconds, right? We didn't have one bull around us. We had a bull that he begged me to shoot because he was going to run us over. It was going to either run us over or do something else to us. He didn't want the second time.
Thought it was self-defense, huh? Well, I'm sure glad you didn't, buddy.
Yeah. He's like, do something.
He's going to kill us.
That bull's 6 feet from us with his head down, ready to chop. I've never seen anything in my life
like it. Well, that's why he
came
at you guys, huh?
He did, yes, sir. And I drew on the bull, and that freaked him out when I drew. But I had to do something because I'm telling you, he was coming, brother. And RC Knox will never forget that as long as I live. And he's begging me to shoot that bull, and I'm like, "That's not the bull I shot, RC." He's like, "That bull's fixing to kill us, man." So, he was sure enough shook up. I was shook up. I mean, it was a grand time. Like I said, man, I put so much time with you guys, and there's been so many awesome stories that I could tell about whether we messed something up or we made something happen.
Right.
But we dared to be. That was a tough hunt. It was warm, and I mean, it was a tough hunt. I was fat as hell. I was 325 pounds. I couldn't hardly walk, so y'all took my fat butt up there and set me on that bench, and I'm telling you, the elk god shined on us that midday, because they come out of that high timber and made one little bitty. That was it. And it was. I mean, we could have killed 10 bulls that each.
So there's two things I want to talk about there. First of all, I want to clarify and make sure people understand that at first RC thought that bull was the bull that you already shot. Yeah.
He thought it was
and thought he was coming after you because he was wounded.
Right.
Secondly, I want you to understand what happened there, because you heard that one bull that just give a little peep. And now you still don't have any idea what his disposition is. But what RC did was he pulled out that little whistle, right? And that little whistle, being a timid, immature bull, not coming across with any kind of challenge.
Right.
Another bull says, "I'm right here." And then all of a sudden, what you called the hyper hot, which is really just, that's that cow doing an insistent buzz.
Right.
That's, "Hey, I'm right here, and like she's in heat, but she uses that call at different times. So that other bull that made that sound, and then those other bulls that were around him, he makes a noise, here's an immature bull, and then here's a cow sound like, "I'm right here, I'm insisting on you coming to me," and it sounded like a cow coming in heat and lit the woods up.
We had the thermals right. We had the wind right. We were below those elk that were above us, bedded down.
Right.
And we heard that little racket. Those bigger bulls pushed all those cows off that edge because they thought, "Oh man, here we go. We got a bunch of young bucks coming from the bottom," right? And they just pushed them off, and the cows started coming to see what was up, right? And then chaos broke out, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of made the story happen for us. But I mean, we were sitting there eating granola. I mean, seriously, you hadn't heard nothing. I mean, you guys had put on a great show, and you'd bucked out, and had to go back to your real job. And man, at the end of the day, I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Yeah.
Everything I learned about bow hunting run out the crack of my butt. I've never in my life had that big an animal screaming. I mean, he's screaming in my face at 19 yards, right? And he come from 41, and that's the only thing I could remember, 41 yards, right?
Right.
When I threw that bow, he turned broadside at 17, 19. I put my 40-yard pin on him and let it rip. Like I said, I mean, I've never in my life been that intimidated. You're down on your knees, and they're so big. They're like a Clydesdale horse coming at you.
Right.
And they literally aggravated, and they're mad, and it was very intimidating.
So for those guys coming from that whitetail country, and we had a lot of people say, "I'm on my first hunt. I've hunted whitetails." Understand that too, and we try to tell people, not only is it a change in the size of the animal, that's something you have to consider with what type of broadhead you use, what kind of,
arrow weight.
Right. What you want as far as penetration with that arrow and those kinds of things. So it is a big, strong, tough animal. So
live 6 weeks with one lung.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And I'm going to go to the next one. And
yes, sir.
This was kind of good because the question was something like, even though a person can get all this internet data, get information from game biologists, can look at everything, on, like we said, on X and Google Maps, and do all their research, how do you still overcome that uneasy, empty feeling of no on the ground scouting confidence? So I'm gonna hit this one first, and I want you to listen to what I say, Gilbert, and then just kind of interject with stuff. And
Sure.
basically, what I'm saying is that you got to change that whole mentality. You got to. I talk a lot about attitude when it comes to confidence, and you can do all that ground scouting ahead of time, and we've done it, and then show up a week, 2 weeks later and think, man, it's just going to be blowing up, it's going to be awesome. And you get in there and it is church mouse quiet. Right?
Yeah.
Crickets. So it doesn't only happen to those people. And what I mean by change your attitude is this: understand that it's an adventure. Go into it with an attitude of, okay, especially these guys that I think the one sentence that this is Colorado. You got to understand that Colorado has more elk in that state than just about any place. There are lots of animals. So finding an animal should not be an issue. Don't go in worried about it. Go in excited with your other skill sets, with your calling, with your abilities to have identified more than one area, not just one, more than one area. And go into that using the skill sets that you're learning here from all these other guys that you're doing, that's developing that confidence, and go in and make it happen. Find those bedding areas, find that sign, find those rubs, get whiffs of those animals, get those high ridges and start doing some night calling. Do the things that are going to create opportunities in your favor. I cannot tell you how to not have confidence, because I can tell you this: there's a lot of guys every year that go into elk camp, even knowing the area, knowing the animal, and still going in with the attitude of, well, I might or might not get one. I mean, their mentality is already set to almost a defeated attitude. And what I'm telling you is don't go in with that. Don't go in with that empty feeling. Go in with that full feeling opportunity to get out in the woods, become part of that circle, become the hunter, hunt aggressively, and make it happen. And if you go to plan A and you're not seeing any sign, you're not smelling any animals, you're not seeing any droppings, you're not seeing where where you're finding their bedding, then move. Don't spend all that time there. Go to plan B, because you don't want to force an area when there's no elk there. Okay?
That's right.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Gil?
No, we've been there. You and myself and several of our Venezuelan brothers, we've been there. We've hunted in the area, had great success 2 or 3 days, and then 2 days later, you couldn't hear. There's not anything.
Right.
So we've had to make those decisions about going to plan A, B, and C. I think that's one of the things that over the long haul, you guys have really instilled in us is can't just have one plan.
Right.
Got to have multiple plans so we can make it happen. And we've been able to do that amongst everybody, amongst all the odds, no matter how warm or cold, no matter how hot or dry, any of that. We've all got a pretty good plan. And I've said this 1,000 times, guys, and y'all are going to hear me say it again. These animals are slaves to their bellies. They got to eat, they got to drink, and they got to have cover. So if you can, I did a lot of fishing in the day. It was about finding the bait. If we could find the bait, we could find the bass.
And don't forget, that bait is those cows too.
That's
so
right.
you finding those cows, you're going to find those bulls. And, that's your goal with that. So, yeah, no kidding, Gilbert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing that I've taken, biggest thing taken away from.
If you've done your homework, believe in that. And, you've set yourself up already for an opportunity. Now go put the boots on the ground and make it happen. And if you have to, that first day, if you've got hunting buddies with you, you guys split and put the mileage on in different areas. And that way you're kind of in what I call hunt scouting at the same time.
Exactly.
So that's real key to do that. So next one was, with the amount of snowpack this spring in some states, do you think water holes are going to be more widely available come late August, September? So, well, I'm here in New Mexico, and this is probably the wettest spring that we've had in a long time, and the greenest that we've had. With that said, it doesn't take long with 2 weeks of heat and wind to change things. Doesn't take long at all. So even though you have that snowpack now, we're keeping our fingers crossed about that. But yeah, you can come up with more water holes or no. I mean, there's no way to predict that. I mean, 2 years ago, this area where we live, we averaged about 16 inches of rain. By the 6th of October, we had almost 30 inches of rain. But after the 6th of October, did not get a drop of moisture throughout the winter. And it devastated the area. We ended up with a fire here of 44,000 acres that came within a half mile of my house. So, that snowpack is great. That is putting us on a head start. But that does not mean anything come August, September. All right? Because you've got to deal with whatever nature's going to hand you at that point. But with that said, understand this. If there is more water, how's that going to affect them animals? If there's more water, if there's more feed, they're going to be more dispersed. And is that good or bad? Well, I'm always a true believer that you deal with the situation. So you always make lemons into lemonade. And
glass full.
Yeah. And if they're dispersed, that just means that you have more opportunities to get into different groups of elk at different places by moving. It means that people in all different areas are going to be spread out as well. If the animals are dispersed, the hunters are dispersed. If the animals are congregated, the hunters are going to be congregated. So when they're dispersed, I think it gives more opportunity to everybody. When they're congregated, that's when you have to use special skill sets to be able to be the ones that are going to be on those animals. You got to work harder. You've got to do the night bugling. You have to hunt the timber at midday. You have to use those low volume elk sounds. You have to do the things that are going to put things in your favor. So I'm hoping that it stays green like this, because I'm already predicting anywhere from 50 to 20 inches additional on these bulls just from the feed that we've had. I'm seeing groups of 6 to 9 antelope fawns out there together.
Wow, that's awesome.
Unbelievable. Where, sometimes you're seeing 1, 2, I mean, the other day I'm coming home, there's 9 fawns in a group. So that says that this is going to be an incredible year for calves, for fawns. It's just a really, really good spring this year. So the animals are taking advantage of it. That's going to be a benefit for all of us. I will encourage anybody that's elk hunting this year, where they have a bear hunt at the same time, to get a bear tag and hunt those bears at the same time. Because if you didn't listen to our Insights episode with Trent, he talked about a study there in Oregon called 13 calves. And out of those 13 calves, 2 survived. 1 was killed by a bobcat. The rest of them were killed by bears. So,
Joe, would clarify that. Are they talking about black bears, or are they talking about the grizzlies?
No, this is black bears.
Wow.
A black bear will literally follow an animal that he's able to smell that's given birth. And, it'll just follow that cow until she gives birth and then feed. So they are incredible predators. In our state, we've got a bunch of them. So I'm not sure where other states are. If you're in a grizzly state, be careful.
No doubt.
Yeah. So that's a whole different ball game there. I had a question that somebody, and I loved this because this guy said, "How many coolers do you recommend having on hand in the truck to hold an elk?" That's my boy right there.
No doubt. He's planning for success.
Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
if you bone out an elk, depending on the size of that animal, I always plan on about 200, 250 pounds of meat from after a boned out animal. If you're going to put all the quarters in, it's going to take a little bit more cooler space, twice as much, most likely, because you're going to put it on ice. In that rosy country, those bulls are bigger. So you're going to probably look anywhere from 300 to 350 pounds in there. If you want to know more exact, send an email to those born and raised fellas out there, because that is their specialty, those Roosevelts.
Yeah.
But for those Rockies, so 120 to 160 quart cooler, I can load one elk in it. If I get a really big bull, and I've gotten a bull where I was, up to close to 300 pounds, and that, I actually did one big cooler and a smaller cooler, because I make sure that it's completely on ice on there, because that way we can stay up in the mountains for days and let other people hunt.
I bring 3, Joe.
Uh-huh.
So we killed that big bull, and it took 2 coolers to put him in. We deboned him. He was big, but I brought another cooler so I could keep his cape dry. Ooh, right. So I put his cape in there, and then either the skull plate or whatever, off to the side. But
right.
Want to be sure, guys, if you're going to put your animal on the wall, you want to make good sure that either bring you some salt with you to salt the cape after you get done with him, and make sure to keep him cool and dry. That's the most important, is to keep him cool and to keep him dry. That'll keep that hair from slipping on your hides.
Good point. Really good point. And when you say 3 coolers, what size, Gil?
I bring 3 150s.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
So whether to have it and not need it, and need it and not have it, it's kind of like a good handgun, Joe.
Yeah. There you go.
we bring all those coolers, and a lot of times we leave them down below. And if we need to go get them, we can go get them. But we got trailers and stuff like that, so we load them up. And like I said, it's better to have them, don't need them, than need them, don't have them.
Yeah. Good point. Excellent.
And look, we load them with ice. We load them with ice, and if we need to go down and go get them, we go get ice or whatever we need to. Ice is fairly inexpensive. I mean, if you can bring, block ice, it tends to last.
So here's a good point on that. I'm glad you talked about that. So you guys out there, go and, get gallon milk jugs, fill them up with water, put them in the freezer, freeze them solid. And you've got great ice that's going to last you a long time while you're out there, and doesn't cost you a cent other than, a few cents of what you pay on your water bill, because bags of ice now, depends on the size you get, be $250, $275 a bag. You load up 40 bags, it's a good little cost. So we also not only do the gallon ones, but we like to take Gatorade bottles and fill those, because now they're a little bit smaller. And if we put those with meat, we add water, so it becomes an ice bath in there. So that's how we handle that. If you only have 5 days, how do you tackle the dilemma of what and when to shoot? In other words, the mindset going into the hunt. Do you go into it with the mindset of taking the first legal animal, bull or cow? That was the question.
That's a great question, Joe. I spent 4 years hunting a bull. And so for me, I think I made you and RC and Carl and everybody else like aggravated, want to pull your hair out, because we passed a lot of bulls, right? We passed a lot of younger bulls, shot opportunities that no doubt I probably could have made. But for me, it was about the hunt. And when I closed that deal, my whole perspective changed after that.
Well, we had a conversation.
Yeah, we did. And you're like, listen, this thing gets a little easier when you get one under your belt, right? You weren't lying. I mean, I hadn't missed one in 6.5 years. Plan on being 7 this year. So, I mean, for me, I've spent the money. I put the time in. If I get an opportunity, I live by this, guys. Today, I do it with my whitetail hunters too. Don't pass an elk the first day you'd kill on the last day.
Right.
And that's just what I live by.
Yeah, I say that to people I'm guiding all the time, you know,
Yeah.
because, but then again, so every person going in has to come to their own consensus.
Manage expectations.
Yeah, what they consider their trophy. And there's a lot of definitions. I'm telling you, any animal with the bow is a trophy.
Amen, bro.
Yeah. But I also, the people that have killed animals, and they're to the point where, or even at the beginning, where they say, well, I want the challenge of killing a mature bull.
Get after it.
Yeah, and that's an incredible challenge, because that animal,
be okay with going home with tag soup.
sure, and that's an animal that is smart. You know, I take advantage of the dumb ones.
Right. Me too. Bird in the bush.
There you go.
Baby.
So, you know, that's
we like elk meat, Joe. I mean, my family loves to eat elk meat, and I can't eat those antlers. So at the end of the day, we can't eat. But they're nice to look at, and yeah, I mean, everybody wants to kill a macho big bull. But at the end of the day, we're meat eaters, you know. So my kids love it. My wife tells me, "You're gonna go away for 8 to 10 days. Don't come back without one."
So Lance, you heard him, man. That came from him, and we're saying that, you know, we're not going to make soup out of the antlers, bud. So I gotta work on making that guy's day. I, you know, also understand that 5 days is plenty of time to do it. And I mean, it would be great, awesome. Now I'm at the point where I can spend 11, 12, 14 days in the woods because of my current situation. But for years, coaching and teaching and guiding, I had 5 days for myself before I had to be out guiding other fellas. So I had to get it done in 5 days, and have done it for years getting it done. So you need to have that conversation. And I'll tell you this, that if it's a dilemma of what and when to shoot, I heard somebody talked about this the other day, and their litmus test was I'm trying to remember whose it was. I'm not sure if it was Michael Batiste or one of those other guys, but their litmus test was, if your heart rate elevates when that animal gets in front of you, if you truly get excited, then that's a trophy. There should be no question about it. You know, if you hear that heart coming out the mouth, then you need to do what you need to do and make a good clean kill on that animal, because you're in the moment. It's exciting. Your adrenaline's going. That is a trophy. So
I agree with that.
What's that?
I agree with that, Joe. You know, the morning I killed that big bull, I had a cow at 12 yards.
Right.
And I drew on her.
Sure.
I'm at full draw. She is dead meat, right? Cleared a little bush. I'm getting ready to touch it off. I'm actually settling that pin, covering my release, and I catch a movement out of the corner of my eye, and that bugle. I turn and I look, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that changed the whole game.
Well, that changed the story right there.
Yeah, I let it down. I'm like, all right, well, now things just got a little interesting, right? So I would say that for me, every day I go out, whoever sent that question, it's a great question. But for me, every day I go out, if I get an opportunity to kill an elk, I'm going to take that opportunity.
Right.
A legal elk, right?
Sure,
whether
definitely.
you have a sex tag or a cow tag or a bull tag. For me, it's not about the antlers. For me, it's about providing my family with the sustenance. It's all about the hunt for me, right?
There you go.
And I could have killed that cow, counted coup on her for sure. He comes strutting out there at 69 yards in the oak brush country.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I can't get one of them 10-yard gimmies in the oak brush country. like Star Wars over the hills and through the woods, right?
Yeah.
But we got it done. So at the end of the day, I think guys just need to manage their expectations and live true to it.
And
Right?
like I said, though, killing elk is a habit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
you
is.
get that first one under your belt, it gets a little easier. And and I don't know if that's just that confidence thing and knowing and seeing the effectiveness of what you did as a hunter and belief in yourself, belief in your equipment, and belief that it can happen, because it just so you tune in a little differently.
Right. I'd hit a couple of bulls before I killed one, and they were just tough shots. One, I had a little deflection, and the other one, like I told y'all, everything run out the crack of my butt there when he was screaming at 17 yards. But for me, it was all about making the shot,
Right.
making the right shot.
Right.
And then I tell you what clued me into the right shot. I took my daughter elk hunting, and she killed a bull with her crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with a crossbow now.
Mm-hmm.
She shot that bull at 38 yards, and she hit him in a spot. When it hit that bull, blood flew out of him, and he was dead in 55 seconds. And that clued me in to an area on that animal that I want to be in. And a lot of guys probably wouldn't try to shoot for that area, but I have. In the last 4 bulls I've killed have been within, 6 inches of that area, and they ain't went 40, 50 yards, and they're piled up. So for me, it was about learning the anatomy
Right.
of that bull and
Right.
driving that arrow through that zone
Right.
that I'm in, right? And having the confidence, knowing I put in the work. You and I shoot at grave distances,
Right.
To be able to feel confident at 40, 50, 60, 70 yards to make that ethical shot. And understanding the body language of the bull. But I think if you live by what your decision is, I had a couple guys last year with us that came into camp. I don't want to kill nothing but a 6x6, right? 6x6 or bust. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
Well,
and it was real funny by the end of that deal. They was like, it don't matter. I'm just so ready to shoot.
Well, it always gets me when people lock into antlers like that, Lance, that you can find a mature 5x5 way bigger than some of them 6x6 rags. I mean, you start just counting points, that's not the case all the time. So
that's right.
I'm getting ready to close out here, so we're going to do kind of our last call. And one of the last areas of questions is what gear is needed for a hunt. We had people that asked what gear they need or what should they carry in their day pack, what type of day pack. We'll talk more about packs a little bit later on that. But to answer those questions for what gear you need for a hunt, if any of you with that question will go to ElkBros.com and join our elk camp this Friday, after this show is over, this Friday, you will receive a link in a email that goes out to our campers that's going to give you a link to a PDF of our ElkBros gear list. And understand that gear list, it is not a backpacking gear list. It's more of a base camp type list. And there's things on there that's not going to apply for everything, because we even cover a few things, disability stuff, if you need hearing aids or glasses, or, if you need your batteries or anything like that. So there's other things that people might not think about, but there's a lot of things on there. Some you don't need, but it gets the juices going and gives you a thought process, gives you some place to go. And it's from a lot of years of experience of being out there. So again, if you want that, just go to ElkBros.com, join our elk camp, and you'll receive a link by Friday to download that gear list. Okay?
That's going to be some awesome content, Joe. And what a great show with all the questions that we've had tonight from everybody. I've been just overwhelmed with all the love and support that we're getting here from our listeners out there and our grinders. Joe, we just look forward to next week.
Yep.
We're going to have a good show for the listeners next week. It's
There's no
going to be
telling
fun.
where you're going to be doing the show from. 'Cause
That's right. And it's our softball season, so we're traveling around trying to get these girls committed. It's going to be fun, a fun summer, and then can't wait to strap on the bow and arrow and come up to elk hunting country with you guys and get this thing done.
And don't forget, everybody, still working hard on that Blue Collar Elk Academy. I've had different people that have been asking me about that. I am not able to give you a date when that's going to come out. All I can do is tell you, join our elk camp when we're getting close. And on our show here, we'll start saying when that's going to happen. It's so much work going into that, and hopefully it's something that does you justice, and as a coach, gives you even more ability to flatten out that learning curve. So make sure you go to our site, go ahead and join our camp, and we'll go keep you in the know.
No doubt. Joe, we appreciate it. From Joe in New Mexico, I'm Gilbert Ornelas here from Dallas, Texas. We have all of our grinders out there. God bless all of you. Husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting. Good night.
Good night, everybody.